People who have died then been resuscitated. What do you remember seeing? Just before my 18th birthday during the summer after graduating high school, I was tearing around on a three-wheeler with friends. This old trike was not cared for by the owners, but I didn't know that, so I was doing my best to whiz around just as fast as the newer quads I was riding with. I broke off from the group and ended up hitting a slight bump and forcing the pins holding the front axle to the frame to shear in two, thus rendering the trike into two entirely separate pieces. The image in your mind may now be me with my ass falling behind on the main portion of the trike whilst my front, still grasping to the handlebars in disbelief, is falling forward, causing a rift in my seating position. The handlebars bounced up and struck just below my voice box, effectively internally severing my trachea. I fell to the ground and was promptly run over by the back half of the trike, which broke my leg and ended up being the boring part of the story. In shock, I stood and tried to call for help, but as those of you paying attention may have surmised, I was unable to force air past my voice box due to the crushed/severed windpipe, and I eventually fell over into a more or less fetal position. When they found me and gathered around while waiting for paramedics to arrive, a 15 minutes chopper flight, I accepted my fate. I was about to die. I told those friends and family around me that I loved them and my time had come. Goodbye. Once paramedics arrived, I described to them that my collarbone had broken and went through my windpipe and out the back of my neck, even though there was no external injury. They, being paramedics, did what they were trained to do and got me on a stretcher and used a BVM in an attempt to get oxygenated air into my body. This failed as they did not have any inkling that the air had no guidance system and simply filled up my body cavity. Eventually I was on a helicopter and then I passed out. From here there are two stories to tell, the one that I experienced, and the one that occurred through others' experiences. My own first. I died. As I was fading, I had the realization that death was imminent and thought, aren't I supposed to see a tunnel and light and all that nonsense? Then it happened. I saw the tunnel and light. Only after I made the realization of what was occurring and connected it to our culturally normative thoughts behind what happens at the time of death. Was I really seeing the tunnel? This has led me to recognize how ingrained cultural beliefs are and how far they can be from reality. Memory fades, but this has lasted vividly for many years since its occurrence. As has been mentioned, the feeling of complete oneness with all of existence was my main perception. That the self is not me or I, but rather one is many or all is one. There is actually a Family Guy sketch where they are stuck in purgatory that gives a decent visual example, and it is simply white nothingness. Except not nothingness, but simply an all-encompassing light. That was it for me. There was no concept of time or space, just existence along with the whole of everything, including the number 42. What happened in the living world was this: the chopper took me towards a large urban medical center, 45 minutes flight, but when the technicians realized I wouldn't make it that far, they turned around and went to the small local hospital. There, a team of surgeons couldn't figure out what was wrong, so one bright young lad decided to slice open my chest and figure it out in order to save my life, which was quickly drifting away. At this point my blood oxygen count was well below normal and brain death was a real possibility. There they found a mess of torn trachea and did a quick fix by sticking a tube in and shipping me off to a different medical center, where I spent the next 6 hours in intensive surgery with a team of doctors who were prepared to break my chest and ribs to get at my collapsed trachea, which would inevitably recoil behind my heart, as the trachea is like a stretched spring inside your chest. Drainage tubes for my lungs were installed, which I still proudly show as Jesus scars, as were a host of balloons to keep my lungs and trachea from collapsing. I spent a week in a coma and another so doped up that I saw golden retrievers dancing with purple hippos in the ICU. It was an exciting and terrifying hospital stay for the next 30 days. Since my family was told I died, would be brain damaged, maybe a vegetable, etc. while I was asleep, you can understand there were, and still are, some strong feelings regarding the incident. However, when I was told I would need a tube in my neck to breathe the rest of my life and therefore would not be able to swim again, I promptly said fuck that shit and made up my mind to recuperate. Although I was still high enough to wonder why I couldn't just swim backstroke and keep the tube out of the water. Within 12 months I was competing in college nationals and now race Ironmans, always showing off my scars. I broke up with my girlfriend because of the Barbie movie. A few days ago, I watched Barbie with my girlfriend. And in Barbie and Ken's seemingly trivial, fantastical world, I found a life-altering realization that compelled me to end a relationship that had spanned 2 years of my life. It wasn't an easy decision to make. She was my rock. Those first few months leading up to us being together was like a delicate dance, as she was still healing from a past relationship. She was so unsure about being with me, probably for fear of repeating past mistakes. But she took the chance, and we grew together slowly. She even stopped talking to her ex after a year or so, since they had been good friends, regardless of the relationship they had. But circumstances brought them back in contact when his mother was hospitalized. She was too afraid to tell me, scared it might upset me. And while I know there was no infidelity involved, the lack of communication hurt me. She immediately stopped speaking to him from that moment over a year ago and hasn't spoken to him since. As if that wasn't enough, 2 months after that incident, her parents were actively pushing her into talks of marriage with a guy they favored. We had an understanding that she would tell me everything and keep her interactions with this guy to a bare minimum and keep it as dry as possible. But when I accidentally saw a 2-month-long snap streak with him on her phone, the old wounds were reopened. She thought she had already told me, but we both soon realized that she had completely forgotten about it. I know snap streaks seem like such a trivial issue, but in the grand scheme of things, it was pretty massive, considering the trials and tribulations we've both been through. I was left in a strange place, feeling as if I was constantly in the shadows of other men in her life, waiting for some level of openness that never really came. But through all of this, she remained my rock, my support. She was there for me during the grueling days of university, the job search, and everything else life threw at me. She was there for my family, always kind, always ready to help. Watching the Barbie movie was supposed to be an escape from reality, but it turned out to be the opposite. In Ken, I saw myself. He existed to serve Barbie. Without her, he felt empty and devoid of purpose. But throughout the movie, and after some unfortunate patriarchy, Barbie helps Ken discover his own worth and realizes he is not defined by Barbie, but rather, he is enough just being himself. And believe it or not, this realization shook me. I had been clinging to the comfort and support she provided, blind to the mounting issues. But I had to face the truth, I was enough. My worth wasn't tied to her, my happiness wasn't dependent on her validation. She is a wonderful person, truly, but we had issues that we couldn't resolve, issues that were hurting us both. And all I am, Ryan Gosling jokes aside, I am like Ken, still searching for my purpose, my calling. But I know that I am enough. I'm not sure where I'll end up, but I have faith in the journey. She deserves the same chance to find her own way without the weight of my expectations or the shadows of her past. So, here I am, a guy who realized his worth after watching a Barbie movie. It's strange how life lessons can come from the most unexpected places. It's been a challenging period, but I'm grateful for the insight. I'm ready to face the world, as me, just me. I am enough. My boyfriend thinks I cheated on him because I'm pregnant. But I'm a virgin. Yeah, pretty much exactly what the title says. I, 16F, am a virgin, so is my boyfriend, 16M. We're both young, and neither of us are ready for sex. Personally, it's never been high on my radar, and from what he's told me, he's the same way. That being said, we've been together for a couple of years now, so things have still happened. I'd rather not go into detail on that, but you can get the picture. Think third base, I guess. Anyways, a couple of days ago, I went to the doctor because I've been feeling really sick lately. I did a urine test and a finger prick, and my doctor told me I was pregnant. Of course, I laughed at first because I thought she was joking, but no, I'm really pregnant. I kind of fell silent. She started talking about things like ultrasounds, prenatal vitamins, etc., but I cut her off and told her that wasn't possible because I've never had sex, therefore have never conceived. She explained to me that very few women can get pregnant by intercourse, but it's still possible due to vaginal anatomy or something. I was, and still am, in complete and utter shock, so I kinda just left without any further explanation. I had driven myself because both of my parents work. I went straight to my boyfriend's house, and he was the first person I told. I hadn't even texted or called in advance because I was crying, completely distraught. I don't know why, but it didn't even cross my mind that he would think I cheated. I would never do something like that. I explained everything to him about how we'd never technically had sex, but we got really close, and stuff can happen. He seemed pretty lost until I eventually told him I was pregnant. Which is when he, rightfully, got pissed at me because how the fuck does that even happen without us having had sex? I tried so hard to explain myself and assure him that I'd never do that, ever. I told him I'd take a DNA test or something to prove that, but he didn't believe a word and made me go home. The last thing he told me was, I really trusted you. He looked like he was about to cry. Now I'm blocked on everything, so I can't text or call explaining myself. I'll respect his decision if he wants to break up, but I need him to know I was never with anyone else. It's been killing me, knowing how hurt he must feel. Luckily, he hasn't told anyone that I'm pregnant because I haven't even told my own parents yet, but he has told people that I cheated on him, and now I'm losing friends and everything's gone to shit. This was already the worst, lowest point of my life, and it seems to be getting worse. I've basically locked myself in my room. I feel so depressed. I just need him to know. My husband cheated on me 10 years ago. I've been slowly plotting his demise ever since. I have been married to my husband for 20 years now. We have 2 kids. My husband is what I would consider a high earner by middle-class standards. 10 years ago, and by complete coincidence, I found out that my husband has been cheating on me with men even before we got married. We live in a smallish town in the south of the USA. Him coming out as gay will have consequences. I believe that is the only reason he has not come out to anyone. First, here's how I found out he was cheating on me. He got sloppy, left a credit card bill, for a secret card, in the pocket of a coat. While going through it I found all the telltale signs of infidelity. Payments to a hotel in a nearby county, restaurant bills, gifts, flowers, lubricant, etc. I started camping outside the hotel on days he told me he would be late, and I saw him bringing different men there. I am very good at compartmentalization and have a great poker face, comes with growing up in an abusive household, so I was able to give myself the time to cool off, and to come up with what I should do. First thing I did was get an STD panel, since I didn't know how safe he was with his partners. It came out negative. Then I convinced him that we should use condoms, since I was having side effects from the pill. He was okay with it. I had a long think, and I came up with the decision that I was not going to confront him, nor was I going to leave him. He was able to provide me a really good lifestyle, one that I would never be able to afford with my high school diploma, a cleaning lady, a nanny to help with the kids, regular spa days and a country club, a new car every other year, luxury family vacations every year. He was a good dad, a good partner, the cheating aside, and really good in bed. But I was not going to let him have a single guilt-free week in his life. That would be my revenge. I started small, planning great date nights for us, telling him that I felt our relationship had cooled, that I wanted the spark back. Then I would sometimes slip into conversation some tea about a cheating husband, a gasp gay man that has been using his poor wife as a beard, complimenting the only gay couple we know for having the courage of being real men, who were out and proud of themselves. On the other hand, I would praise him as the perfect husband to anyone and everyone, especially if he was in earshot. The amount of guilt gifts I got was astounding. The man was even sending me flowers weekly. It continued the same way for years. I could literally see how much it was weighing on him. Me? Well, my parents were part of a commune with the concept of free love. I was the same. I just considered myself in an open marriage. It seems that cheating is easier to ignore if you are not that big on monogamy in the first place. and my husband was keeping me satisfied, so I felt no need to find a partner of my own. Then 4 years ago, I guess he met the love of his life. He started seeing just the one guy. I was seriously thinking of ending the whole thing, especially since I had started a business by then, and was able to bring in enough money to support myself and my kids, while maintaining my lifestyle. But then he went and introduced his side piece to us. He fucking brought him into our house, introduced him to our kids, and that was enough for me to keep tormenting him. Apparently he was a new friend he made while golfing. He started hinting at moving to another state, one where it would be easier for him to come out. I refused. I told him that my business was here, and I was not going to start over in another state. Also, the kids had their friends and extended family here. It would be unfair to uproot them. Then he started trying to start arguments. I guess he wanted us to fight, then for me to ask for a divorce. I just stopped all those arguments in their tracks. I would just agree with whatever he said. He was right, I was wrong. And to make it up to him, how about a nice dinner and some great sex? He hated that. I knew from spying on his phone that having sex with me felt like cheating on his new boyfriend. The audacity of this man. I also knew that his boyfriend was pressuring him to leave me almost every day. He was stuck between a rock and a hard place. He started drinking, and when it got too heavy, that was when I decided that enough was enough. I wanted to ruin his life, not his health. Also, I grew up with an alcoholic father, and did not want that for my kids. So I gathered all the evidence of his infidelity over the last 9 years, photos with different men, conversations, his Grindr profile, even though he no longer had one, pretty much everything. Then I hired a divorce attorney, and mailed the evidence to his employer. He has a morality clause in his contract, and adultery breaks it. All his relatives, including parents, as well as our church, I was never big on religion like him. It was like a bomb exploded. He was fired, the congregation turned on him. For cheating, not for being gay, let's keep that straight. I would never allow my kids to be part of a church that discriminated against their father. Even if he was not out, his parents wouldn't take him in after I kicked him out, and he was shamed publicly because we lived in a small town. And the cherry on the top? His boyfriend ran out of the town, and he couldn't follow him because he wanted to fight for custody of our kids. Now almost a year later, I am a free woman. I got to keep the house, my car and my business. He got 75% of the retirement and investments accounts, but he won't be paying alimony. I got full custody, he got visitations. I also got child support. He had to move 6 hours away to find a new job. Couldn't put the last job he worked at his whole life as a reference. His relationship with his family is rocky. His reputation in town is ruined, so he can't move back anytime soon. The love of his life left him for good. My kids only tolerate him because I did my best to shield them, and to tell them that he is still a good father to them. I also made sure to treat him politely, never talked bad about him, and had a lengthy talk about how their father being gay is okay, it's who he is and that it was not his fault. The only wrong thing he did was hiding it from me. So I guess the result of his cheating was years of guilt followed by a ruined life. My boyfriend thinks I cheated on him because I'm pregnant. But I'm a virgin. Part 2. First off, I just want to specify a couple of things, misconceptions as well as some key aspects I didn't do a good enough job explaining. No, my boyfriend didn't yell at me or call me names. He was angry, you could tell, but it was an extremely short conversation, and he was primarily silent. That's the type of person he is. Though we've had very few arguments, he usually goes quiet when he's mad. I'm not saying it was the right way to act at all, but it was understandable in my opinion, as the possibility of this happening was entirely new and confusing to both of us. He also never spread rumors about me, as some people were saying. I want to make that clear. He told his best friend, who told another one of their close friends, and you know how that works. Toxic gossip train. A few of our mutual friends, who are generally closer to him/knew him first, stopped talking to me. Again, that hurts a lot. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I know that if I thought someone had cheated on my friend, I would drop ties with him instantly. I understand things like this seem a lot worse to adults who maybe forget what it's like to be young and immature because we're 16, and that's what we are. I think people also forget that I was making this post very shortly after all of this had happened. He came to my house the morning after I made the post and apologized, explaining that he'd done a lot of research and felt bad for accusing me. He said he still didn't know if he fully trusted me but wanted to at least help me while I went through this because, if anything, we've been best friends since we were small. He came over, and we told my parents together, explaining that I didn't know if it was pregnancy/illness, and I needed to get further testing done. They seemed disappointed that I hadn't told them I was sexually active, but my mom said she was more disappointed in herself for not teaching me about reproductive health. They're being as supportive as they can. So, that all happened. Flash forward to the next day, I went to the doctor to get more blood testing done. I wanted to update then, but I had to wait until I got the results back. So far, after a full blood panel, all signs are still pointing to me being pregnant. The comments kind of got my hopes up, thinking it was most likely something else. My doctor explained that there was actually a slightly higher chance of me being pregnant than there was of a false positive because it's generally men with cancer who receive those. I don't know if he was going off of statistics or personal experience, though. I'm not sure since there's still not a positive way to know if it's really a pregnancy, so I have an ultrasound scheduled for this Thursday as it was the earliest appointment available. That will be the only way to properly confirm. If the ultrasound confirms that I'm pregnant, then I'm also going to ask about getting DNA testing as a form of paternity test. Again, no one else but my boyfriend and my parents know about this at all, and I don't want them to. Well, today, I got the ultrasound, and yes, confirmed the pregnancy. I was still holding on to a bit of hope that it might be something else. My doctor gave me a referral to go straight to a blood work lab. I have no idea what they're actually called, so me and my boyfriend could do a prenatal paternity test. I'd never gotten a referral that quickly, Usually, you have to wait at least a day, but she sent me over for an appointment just an hour after the ultrasound, which was really great. We did the blood test/saliva swab, and now we just have to wait about a week for the results. Most likely getting an abortion but still figuring out the safest way to do that out of state.